How to improve your jawline. This is basically just a bunch of tips that help you accentuate and define your jawline. Personally, after implementing these tips, I think my jawline's got much better. You can probably look through some older videos to fact check that. Alright, let's start. So firstly, mewing. I think is the most fundamental one. This is essentially where, when you swallow, this is what happens to your tongue. So this is your tongue, this is the roof of your mouth. So when you swallow, you should be swallowing like this. Your tongue should go on the top of your mouth and then like that. And this forces the food down, obviously, through your throat, and then obviously goes to your stomach. So after you swallow, you want to keep your tongue in this position and then breathe through your nose. When you're doing this, this defines your jawline, and other benefits to nasal breathing are, well, there's a multitude of nasal breathing. You can search up mouth breathing but versus nasal breathing, and you can see that people who breathe through their nose are much more, or have much more defined jawlines, because generally your mouth has two purposes: talking and eating, and your nose is to smell and to breathe. That would generally make sense, wouldn't it? Alright, secondly, you want to drink a lot more water. When you drink a lot of water, your body is aware that you have a lot of water in your body, obviously. So, knowing this, your body's going to flush out a lot of water. Obviously, when you drink more water, you're going to need to go to the toilet more, but your skin's going to look, well, there's a multitude of benefits to drinking too much. No, drinking enough water. Drinking too much is obviously, kidney problems can be caused by that. But when you drink a sufficient amount of water, your face looks more defined and your skin becomes generally more elastic. And so it's more tight around your bones, and so it looks more defined. My headphones are also, they're blue because I left paint next to my earphones. I don't listen to music, but I just left them next there, and the paint exploded and went all over my headphones. And now they're designed with blue. Very cool. Sad. Third tip is having a low body fat percentage. When you have a low body fat percentage, you don't have a lot of fat around your cheeks, and so generally your jaw looks more defined. That's pretty obvious. Also, when you get rid of the fat, have a low body fat percentage, you get rid of the double chin if you have one. Secondly, kind of all the fat that's around here. You can't direct fat loss in certain areas, but if you lose your overall fat, you'll find that, well, obviously when you lose fat, you're losing your overall fat, but when you first start losing fat, your face fat goes first. So generally, you don't really have to lose that much fat or have to be in a cutting phase for too long to see increased definition in your face. Next, you're going to have to swallow correctly. Like I said, swallowing correctly is like this. Your tongue goes to the top of the roof of your mouth, and it does that, and it pushes the food down here. That's how you swallow correctly. What often happens is when children are given the dummy thing, they suck on that, and that impacts their swallowing. So they swallow incorrectly, and what happens is your buccinator muscles, so the muscles that are kind of here, they get built through hypertrophy. So when you work out your muscles, so then they become bigger, they become fuller, and then you kind of have this more chubby cheek look. What you might find is in some actors, while they're already low body fat percentage, you might see them in movies where they're shirtless, you'll see that their cheeks still look kind of chubby. That's likely because they don't swallow correctly. So to swallow correctly, you want your tongue to be like that. This is your tongue, this is the roof of your mouth. You want your tongue to go like that, forcing the food down. Also, when you're mewing, I forgot to mention this, when to activate mewing essentially, when to start doing it, what you want to do is you want to swallow and then keep your tongue in that same position and then nasal breathe. I might mention this, but again, it's quite fundamental. Again, swallowing correctly helps build your masseter muscles. These muscles here, kind of in this area, these ones accentuate and define your jawline more. This then goes on to chewing gum. When you chew gum, and generally tough foods like tough meats and nuts, your masseter muscles get more defined and they become more visible. And obviously, no, your masseter muscles don't become more visible, but they have a greater impact on your face, and you get a more defined jawline, and your bones protrude out more, and you generally just look better. Proof of this, actually, is when you look at our diet now, it's much more soft, processed, more chewy, and you don't really have to crack anything or crush anything in your mouth. But when you compare our foods, or the foods that older generations consume, like Romans or even further back, you see that their jawlines are really defined, because their diet consisted of tough meats, and tough nuts, which generally require you to chew a lot, and so your master muscles get bigger, or their master muscles would have gone bigger, their jawlines would have been more defined, and thus their bone structure would have been a lot different. This is something you see in kind of the character Thanos in Avengers Endgame and all the other Avengers movies. You see that apparently our far ancestors, their jawline was shaped like that because of the foods they were eating. Obviously, you're not really looking for the Thanos jawline kind of type, but obviously you want a much more defined jawline here, and so obviously chewing gum is how you can do this one. If you can, chewing more tough nuts and tough meats can also help this. You don't have to go too much with the chewing gum. You just need to be chewing gum regularly, because that's how you work on your muscles. You do it regularly. Obviously, you do want a good amount of. You don't want it to be too easy, so you can get special jawline gum. I don't think you need jawline gum, but if you just take 2 pieces of gum and chew that regularly, chew that for a long period of time, then you will build your jawline. What you might find is you have kind of a tendency to chew on one side of your mouth. I found I have a tendency to chew on this side of my mouth, so over time I started chewing gum only on this side of my mouth to kind of build a more equal balance in my jawline. What else is that to say? Generally, is there anything else I can really say? Oh yeah, back to the buccal muscles, so the muscles in your cheeks. When you start to swallow correctly, you start relying on these muscles. So when you obviously start swallowing correctly, your muscles go through atrophy, which is basically where they're deworked. So they become smaller and smaller over time because your body doesn't need them anymore. So the way your body works on muscle building, it's like when you're using your muscle, it's like, oh, he's using this muscle, so we're going to repair this muscle and give him more because he's using it. That's how muscle building works. But when it finds, oh, he's not using this muscle, hence we're going to not bother repairing the muscle or even keeping it alive, so it'll kind of just go away over time. Obviously, the muscle won't die, it'll still be present, but it'll be smaller and smaller the less you work it out. Which is why when you see detrained athletes, ones who are really big, after a long period of time, their muscles get much smaller. So yeah, that's quite a thing. This also links to dummies. I think I did mention this earlier. With children, they use dummies, and that's kind of how they develop the sucking kind of chewing. Well, you're not meant to swallow like by sucking, but because they use the dummies, that kind of causes that. So if you have children, I wouldn't recommend dummies because then it could impact their jawline in the future. And yeah. Next tip, don't mouth breathe. When you're mewing, you're not going to be mouth breathing, but some people say, oh, well, mouth breathing is fine. It's not. There's way too many health detriments to mouth breathing. I think the only time it's really acceptable is maybe in sports. What they did find is that people who breathe through their nose while they're running, well, this is mostly in track teams, so running is pretty much in every sport, it helps them improve their stamina and they do better. Overall, their results are generally much better when they're taught how to breathe properly, which is breathing through their nose. So some might say during activity, sports, whatever, breathe through your mouth. Some might say breathe through your nose. I'd argue breathe through your nose just because of the added health benefits. Because every time you breathe through your mouth, you're losing one time you could breathe through your nose and get the added benefits of breathing through your nose. But anyways, that's it. Hope you get a better jawline.